we will turn to the fourth bill of the day. That's House Bill 116. Delegates Kipke and George. House Bill 116 is entitled Blind Industries and Services Procurement Preference Exception. Delegate Kipke.
Thank you, Chairman Hammond and members of the committee. Good afternoon. I bring before you House Bill 116. The fiscal note is in the handouts, and I want to take a few moments to explain to you why this bill, in my opinion, after real consideration, is very important to the state of Maryland. First, most of the members know that in my private life, I am a wholesale broker, and I work with products primarily around janitorial supplies and consumer goods that I then connect to wholesalers. Many of these wholesalers in the state of Maryland exist in everyone's county and everyone's area. And they primarily service hospitals and hotels and restaurants and cleaning companies. Because I have such a long history in that industry, I took a lot of time over the past 5 years to analyze how the state of Maryland is procuring these supplies and whether or not we're getting the best bang for our buck. So I took a look at how this works. In the past, the state used to set out public bids, and all the wholesalers in the state and outside the state would bid on that business, and they would inevitably drive down the cost of those goods, and the state would get a very good deal. Because of our interest in supporting folks with developmental disabilities, we set out a Maryland Works set-aside in our state procurement law. We also set aside a preference for Maryland Corrections so that we can train inmates for careers for once they leave the prison. And we also set aside a procurement specialty for Blind Industries of Maryland, which, frankly, I've toured. I've met with their president. I've met with folks in their purchasing and sales and individuals who work there. I've seen their plant. And they do a great job. They employ over 100 Marylanders who are blind or have vision impairments, and they really do a great job. And the state of Maryland benefits from our relationship with Blind Industries. For example, a lot of the water that comes to the state of Maryland under the label now is water that is produced there at their facility, and we get a really good deal, which is a benefit to taxpayers. Some office supplies that we get from Blind Industries is also a really good deal, and the price is much better than we could get on the open market. But there's a very long list of products that we procure from Blind Industries that is exaggerated in price and is not driven by real market considerations. So let me talk about that for a minute. Currently, when these products are sold to the state, there's a pricing committee that looks at whether or not the products are at the right price. That pricing committee is made up of members of state DGS and also Blind Industries. And basically they look at a product, especially a new product. They do some comparisons out there of what people are paying for it, and then they set the price. But what we don't have is a competitive market scenario where other individuals have an opportunity to tell the state, hey, on this product, I can sell it to you for $20 less a case. So what we have is a very long laundry list of products, almost $9 million in procurements by the state of Maryland, where many of those products are at least 20, 50, even 100% more than what you could get on in the private market. Now, I don't want to stand in the way of Blind Industries from serving the population that they serve and the good work that they do, because it's important to all Marylanders. But I have to tell you, I think there needs to be a change in the way that we control the prices that are set up in our relationship with Blind Industries. And so House Bill 116 does two really important things. The first thing it does is it says, yeah, we're going to buy all these products from Blind Industries, but if a state procurement officer can save 10% or more, they have the ability to procure that product from a private wholesaler in the state. 10% or more. Most set-asides that we have are 5%. Whether it's minority business, small business, whatever it may be, We usually have a buffer of about 5% benefit that we provide to those folks. This would call for 10%. With that, the fiscal note says it could save the state about $800,000 a year. And what would happen is it would motivate wholesalers who used to sell all of these products through bids to the state and to pop into these different facilities, talk to procurement officers, whether it's prison systems, university systems, whatever it may be, and say, hey, I have a great deal. I know you're paying $29 a case on this product. I got the exact same thing for $19. Then that procurement officer, if they decide to buy the product, would have to notify the Secretary of DGS, who is on the pricing committee. And then he can go back to that pricing committee where a representative of BISM is seated and say, listen, your price is out of whack. You need to talk to your vendor and drive this price down, because we do want to purchase from BISM. But right now, they're in a bubble. They're sheltered. They're protected in a way where there's no market forces to bring down prices. In closing, I understand the sensitivity of the issue, and Mr. Chairman, I would like to request that this bill be considered for placement in the Government Ops Subcommittee. We want to ensure that we give this issue a full evaluation and make sure that we get this right. And with that, I'll close for any questions they may have.
Any questions, response? Start with Delegate Collison and go to Delegate Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There we go. Thank you. Delegate, from your perspective, how do you think, or did you do some research and talk to the committee that sets prices and talk to them about their process and what they were using to make those determinations?
Yeah, well, what I did is I talked to the secretary who sits on that committee, and I also spoke to a lady just the other day from Blind Industries who's here, Sharon, and she shared with me that they really do a robust evaluation of products. But the thing that's not being considered is when Marriott Corporation purchases a product, they get a really good deal because there's a lot of people taking a swipe at that business. Maryland is a Marriott. Maryland is a huge entity that buys a lot of products. We've only got one person taking a swipe at it. So there's no motivation and driving force on BISM to go to their vendors and say, hey, listen, this is the state of Maryland. You want a shot at this or not? There's no motivation on their part, because as long as no one's squeaking about the price or complaining about it, they're not constantly scrutinizing their prices. They may on certain items, but we buy a lot of products, a very long laundry list, and I am very, very sure that some of the products that we're buying are artificially inflated based on what I know about our market.
So, but the money that's made from the products is going to the industries to support those who are working in those industries? And is there, in your opinion, an additional need perhaps to support those individuals, which might not be true for the people who are supplying and bidding really low for Marriott?
I totally agree with you, Delegate Collison, and that's why I support this set-aside that we have, this sheltered workshop. I don't want to eliminate it or ensure that there's a disruption in what they do. But there has to be a reasonable approach to what that dollar amount is. I believe BISM can continue to do what they do based on a 10% price preference. They will supply the state everything that they supply today. And maybe they'll lose an order on a product, but that procurement officer has to report it to the secretary, which gives the state secretary knowledge of where we may be out of whack on a price, and they can then take that to BISM and say, hey, we need a better deal. So it puts pressure. So that it brings in, and if BISM reacts to the secretary's demand, they'll keep the business in the future. So my goal is to help keep BISM's prices sharp, so the state of Maryland and taxpayers are paying a price that's fair, and we also are able to continue to support a very important sheltered group so that we can provide services and jobs to individuals with blindness or vision impairment.
Thank you, Delegate Kipke.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman Hammond, and thank you for your bill, Delegate Kipke. I want to make sure that I have a question in my response to you and what you're doing. I do appreciate the bill, and there's a need. If you remember yesterday, Warren Deschanel said, who is negotiating on behalf of the state? He made that comment yesterday. So your bill seeks to do it, to making sure that we get a good price for what we're looking to purchase. However, I do wonder if we look at supermarkets. Every supermarket chain doesn't have the same price. When my mother-in-law was retired, she'd shop at 5 different supermarkets because somebody had a lost leader. They had toilet paper for $1, and then they had orange juice at another store for 50 cents, and she'd go to 5 different stores. But I can't afford to go to 5 different stores. I'm not retired. So I'm wondering, in this mix of who we have as vendors, they're going to have some lost leaders, and they're going to have stuff that's priced a little bit higher than a competitor, but they can't have a store of everything the lowest price. Now, my background is also retail. I worked for a price club in college, and some things were higher than others, but we were able to make a business by having our prices kind of be overall competitive. Not all of them lower than our competitor all the time. So what are your thoughts on that when you think of people trying to at least have their margins high enough to stay in business? Because I doubt if we can find one vendor that has the lowest price all the time on all their products.
Couldn't agree with you more. There are gimmicks that come up. There could be a factory that produces a product and they have a closeout, for example. Maryland used to get the benefit of that closeout. We don't get that benefit today in very rare circumstances because we only have one person looking at it. And my goal is to ensure that BISM remains the strong, healthy financial entity that they are. I mean, they're one of the strongest nonprofits in the state of Maryland with a great list of services that they provide. And so the Secretary, through this bill, is directed to establish a procedure for his procurement officers around the state. If somebody comes to you with a better deal and it's greater than 10%, maybe it should be 20%. Maybe it should be 50%. But we've got products on that list that are double what you could pay from just about any other wholesaler in the state. And I'll have specific examples with a complete analysis for the Government Ops Subcommittee. Sir.
Thank you, Delegate. I don't know if this question goes to you, or is there another group coming up, the blind industry?
I see that they're signed up.
Are they signed up? Okay, so my question is really to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, let me ask you a question. If with this 10%, will BISM have the opportunity to lower their bid and still maintain the same amount of business that they actually have with the contracts and stuff like that? Does it say, well, look, there's somebody lower than you. Can you readjust your bid and keep the contract?
Yeah, it gives the authority to the Secretary to determine how the Secretary wants it to be done. So there needs to be a process in place. The most important thing here, in my opinion, is that wholesalers have the motivation to continue to pop in to see these procurement officers and offer them deals and prices. So that they're constantly reporting this back to the Secretary. I don't want it to be a process that creates a lot of paperwork for the Secretary. So in the bill it specifically states the method in which he'll find out about it. And in those situations, he'll have the authority to approve or not approve the purchase.
So he can just leave well enough alone if he wants to then, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.